The Chicago Fire, Conor McGregor, and President Ford are all on this day. Hey, welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is July 14th. We are 196 days into this year. There's only 170 days left in 2020. It's also the 28th Tuesday in the 29th week of this year, and it's the 24th day of summer. There's only 70 days left till fall, and hopefully a football season. There are two major things celebrated today. Number one, Bastille Day in France, and Cow Appreciation Day in Canada. Who doesn't love Cow Appreciation Day? Bastille Day marks the anniversary of an attack on the French prison of Bastille, a symbol of King Louis XVI's power. Anyway, on July 14th, 1789, a group of Parisian revolutionaries attacked the Bastille looking for gunpowder to go with the rifles they had recently stolen. The revolutionaries stormed the prison, defeating the soldiers and bringing a victory to the common people of France. That's the explanation for it. Basically, you had a bunch of Parisians that had had enough of oppression and decided to do something about it. Cow Appreciation Day is pretty much what it says. It's in Canada. They do weird stuff there. All right, let's see what else July 14th has given us. 1798, the Sedition Act becomes law in the United States, making it a federal crime to write, publish, or utter false or malicious statements about the United States government. It expired in 1801, probably because it kind of went against the whole freedom of speech thing, and freedom of the press, and a whole bunch of other things. 1874, the Chicago Fire of 1874 burns down 47 acres of city, destroying 812 buildings, killing 20 people, and resulting in the fire insurance industry demanding municipal reforms from the Chicago City Council. Many of the insurers sort of halted, doing business in Chicago after that. They only returned after the city kind of changed their ways. Overall, across the whole of damage, the losses sustained in the fire amounted to about $3,845,000. With inflation, that whole damage would have been over $1 billion. 1877, the Great Railroad Strike of 1877 begins in Martinsburg, West Virginia, when wages of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad workers were cut for the third time in a year. That's never a good thing. When you just keep cutting people's wages, it kind of sucks and they get angry. I guess they didn't see this one coming. Anyway, the strike was ended on September 4th by local and state militias and federal troops. At the time, the workers were not represented by any trade unions or anything like that, so this kind of let the companies do what they wanted to do, and like I said, this angers people. The strike finally ended some 69 days later after it was put down by unofficial militias, basically hired guns, the National Guard and federal troops. The strike was supported by over 100,000 workers, and it was estimated that over 100 people were killed in the unrest across the country. 1881, Billy the Kid is shot and killed by Pat Garrett outside Fort Sumner. William Bonney killed 8 men before he was shot and killed at the age of 21. His actual name was Henry McCarty. He went by William Bonney, but most people knew him as Billy the Kid. He was first arrested for stealing food. 10 days later, he robbed a Chinese laundry. After escaping jail, he fled to the Arizona Territory, it wasn't a state yet, and murdered a blacksmith during an argument. And then he killed 2 sheriffs while trying to escape. After that, he did a couple more killings and other crimes and eventually was killed. But he'd killed 8 men before he turned 21. In East St. Louis, they call that Tuesday. 1943, in Diamond, Missouri, the George Washington Carver National Monument becomes the first United States national monument in honor of an African American, and the first non-president monument. That's pretty cool. The site preserves the boyhood home of George Washington Carver, as well as the 1881 Moses Carver House and the Carver Cemetery. George Washington Carver was an American scientist and inventor who promoted alternative crops to cotton and methods to prevent soil depletion, all kinds of good stuff. The guy was pretty interesting. I read a book on him in high school. All the things he came up with were outstanding. 1960, Jane Goodall arrives in Gombe Stream Reserve, which is present-day Tanzania, to begin her famous study. She is considered to be the world's foremost expert on chimpanzees and best known for her study of social and family interactions with wild chimpanzees. She's an amazing woman. I've seen documentaries on her. I read a book about her. I understand there's a movie out about her, which I haven't seen. She's an amazing woman. She spent most of her life in the Gombe Stream Reserve. 1969, the Federal Reserve Bank begins removing large denomination United States currencies from circulation. Since then, US dollar banknotes have only been issued in 7 denominations: $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100. The first $500 note was issued in North Carolina in May of 1780. Now, then Virginia came along and gave $1,000 bills, and then there was a couple $2,000 bills in other states. In total, there were 11 different U.S. currencies. Although they are still legal forms of currency in the United States, the high denomination bills were last printed in late 1945 and then not discontinued for another 29 years. 1976, the death penalty is abolished in Canada. 2016, a terrorist vehicular attack in Nice, France, kills 86 civilians and injures over 400 others. This was a sad one. Some idiot got in a truck and just drove down this popular promenade thing right by the ocean. Just ran people over. He was a Tunisian man that was suffering from mental issues, and yeah, it was a mess. Movies released on July 14th, 1999, The Blair Witch Project. This was a freaky movie. If you weren't around back then or watching movies, this wasn't a documentary, but they made it seem like these were just tapes they found of some missing kids that went into these spooky woods. So everyone was just flocking to see this movie. And of course, later on we find out, no, it was actually filmed on a video camera on purpose. It was a weird movie. 2000, the first X-Men movie shows up on the big screen. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Halle Berry as Storm, Ian McKellen was in it. It was a great movie. Kind of started the whole superhero trend. I mean, there were Superman and Batman movies and stuff, but I guess for Marvel, this was like the launch of all their movies. Born on July 14th, 1913, President Gerald Ford, American commander, lawyer, and politician. He was the 38th president of the United States. 1952, Bob Castle is born, American guitarist, keyboarder, and producer. He was one of the founding members of the band Devo, which I loved growing up. I loved Devo. He passed away in 2014. 1988, Conor McGregor, Irish mixed martial artist. He is former UFC featherweight and lightweight champion. As of last month, he was number 8 in the UFC's men's division. He probably could be a lot better, but the dude just doesn't fight and keeps claiming he's retiring. I shouldn't say do better. He could be higher ranked if he wasn't doing all that nonsense. But he doesn't think he gets paid enough, so oh well. Died on July 14th. Yeah, we already kind of talked about this one. Billy the Kid was really the only notable person. There's a lot of other people, but, gymnasts and famous pianists, just nothing spectacular that jumps out. Alright, so that is our video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now you can all go out, enjoy your day, be productive, and be nice to each other.